In 2004, two brothers split their father's inheritance. Same family, same city, same starting amount. One bought a property, and one bought the stock market. 20 years later, one of them is quietly wealthy. The other one is tired. And here's the part nobody talks about. Both of them made money. But the way they made it, the risk they took to make it, and the life they lived while making it, that's where the real story is. Whether you're sitting in Mumbai, Manchester, Melbourne, Moscow, or Miami, this is the conversation you need to have before you put a single rupee, pound, dollar, euro, or yuan into either of these paths. Let's run the real numbers. Every real estate versus stocks debate you've ever watched makes the same mistake. It cherry-picks a city where property went up 300% in a decade. Or it shows a stock market chart starting conveniently in 2009, right after the worst crash in a generation. Neither of those is honest, and neither of them is useful to you. Here's what we're going to do differently. We're going to look at what actually happened to real investors in multiple real markets across the last 20 years. Because the most important thing I can tell you isn't which one wins globally. It's which one wins for your situation, in your market, with your temperament. Let's meet our two investors. Two brothers, 30 years old, living in the same city. Their father passed away in 2004 and left each of them the equivalent of $40,000 USD. We'll use USD throughout for easy global comparison. But every figure in this video translates directly to your local currency. Travis, the older brother, uses his $40,000 as a down payment on a rental property. He takes out a mortgage for the remaining balance, finds a tenant, and starts collecting rent. He tells everyone at family dinners that he's a property investor now. His mother is very proud. Chiggy, the younger brother, puts the same $40,000 into a broad stock market index fund. Not individual stocks, not cryptocurrency, a simple, low-cost index fund tracking his country's top companies. He sets up a $300 monthly automatic contribution and genuinely never thinks about it again. Their uncle thinks Chiggy is wasting his money. 20 years later, their uncle is wrong. But so is anyone who tells you the outcome was simple. Here's the truth about real estate that holds across almost every market on Earth. Whether you're in Delhi, Dubai, Sao Paulo, Sydney, or Stuttgart, the number on the brochure is never the number you keep. Let's say Travis buys a $200,000 property, the equivalent of an entry-level rental investment in dozens of cities worldwide in 2004. He puts down $40,000, finances the rest at the prevailing rate in his country. His paper cash flow looks like this. Monthly rent collected is $1,200, monthly mortgage payment, $900 paper profit, $300 per month, and $3,600 per year. Travis feels like a genius. His property is also appreciating, and he's building equity. He's using the bank's money to grow his wealth. This is the leverage argument, and it's real. But then reality shows up. No matter which country you're in, these costs exist. They're just called different things. In India, rental vacancy rates average 10–12% annually in major cities, according to JLL India's residential reports. In Germany, Berlin averaged 1–2% vacancy pre-2020, but post-2020 markets created new gaps. In Australia, the national vacancy hit 1% in 2022, but regional markets stayed above 3%. Globally, budget 1 month of lost rent per year. On Fodor $200 rent, that's wanting $200 gone before you start. Every property on Earth deteriorates. The 1–2% annual maintenance rule, $2,000 to $4,000 per year on a $200,000 property, applies whether you're fixing monsoon water damage in Chennai, frozen pipe bursts in Moscow, or termite treatment in Queensland. Some years it's minor, and some years it's catastrophic. In India, property tax varies wildly by state, 0.1% to 0.5% of property value annually. In the UK, landlords pay council tax on vacant periods plus income tax on rental profits at marginal rates. In Australia, land tax kicks in above certain thresholds. In the US, property taxes average 1.1% nationally. In Germany, the Grundsteuer reform has made taxes unpredictable. No country gives you rent for free. If Travis manages himself, he's working unpaid hours every week. If he hires an agent, which is standard in most markets, that's 8–12% of the monthly rent. In India, brokers take 1 to 2 months' rent for each new tenancy. In the UK, letting agents charge 10–15% of the annual rent. Either way, this cost is real. After all real costs, Travis' actual annual net return in years 1 through 5 is approximately 2% to 5% cash on his $40,000 down payment. But Travis also has something Chiggy doesn't have, which is leverage. He used $40,000 to control a $200,000 asset. If that asset appreciates even 4% per year, which is below average for most urban global markets over the last 20 years, his equity is growing by the full $200,000, not just his $40,000 contribution. On the other hand, Chiggy invested $40,000 in 2004 into a broad market index fund, not a single country's market, but a globally diversified index like the MSCI World Index, which tracks large and mid-cap companies across 23 developed markets. The MSCI World Index returned an annualized 9.2% from 2004 to 2024. That's the actual verified 20-year return, including two major crashes, 2008 and 2020. Let's see what Chiggy $40,000 became with $300 monthly contributions. Year 5, 2009. The 2008 crash dropped his portfolio roughly 40%. His $95,000 portfolio fell to approximately $57,000. He did not sell. He kept his $300 monthly contributions running through the crash. This decision, doing nothing, was the most important financial move he ever made. Year 10, 2014. Portfolio, approximately $145,000 to $160,000. He contributed $76,000 total. Compound growth added approximately $75,000 on top. Year 20, 2024. Portfolio, approximately $390,000 to $420,000. Total contributed $112,000. Pure compound growth is approximately $290,000. Chiggy spent exactly 0 weekends managing his investment. 0 phone calls about broken plumbing. 0 legal fees for tenant disputes. 0 anxiety about finding his next tenant. His uncle still doesn't understand what Chiggy did. Here is where the global picture gets genuinely interesting, because the winner of this comparison is different depending on which country you live in. Between 2004 and 2024, prime Mumbai residential property appreciated approximately 7–9% annually. In a market with that appreciation rate, leverage amplified Travis's gains dramatically. His $200,000 property is now worth approximately $700,000 to $800,000. His equity story dramatically outperforms Chiggy's index fund in this specific market. But India's Sensex also returned approximately 14.15% annualized over the same period, one of the best-performing equity markets on Earth. In India, both paths created extraordinary wealth. Sydney property averaged 6.8% annual appreciation from 2004 to 2024. Travis's equity story is compelling, but the ASX 200 returned approximately 8.5% annualized, including dividends. In Sydney, both paths are competitive, but real estate requires far more capital, debt, and active management. Shanghai residential property from 2004 to 2024 was one of the greatest property appreciation stories in human history. Some districts appreciated 10 to 15% annually. Property is dominant in this specific market, but Chinese equity markets significantly underperformed. The Shanghai Composite barely moved over this period. In China, Travis's decision was clearly better. In high appreciation markets like Mumbai, Sydney, Shanghai, Dubai, Toronto, leverage amplified real estate returns powerfully. In stable, mature markets like Germany, Japan, parts of the US and the UK, index funds competed strongly or won outright on a time-adjusted, risk-adjusted basis. The country you live in changes the answer. That's not a cop-out. That's the truth. 20 years after their father's inheritance, Travis and Chiggy sit down together for the first time to actually compare their numbers. Travis's real estate position looks like this. Property value, after 20 years at 4% average global appreciation, approximately $438,000. The remaining mortgage balance is approximately $60,000 to $70,000. Equity is approximately $370,000 to $380,000. Net cash flow profit above all real costs over 20 years is approximately $25,000 to $50,000. Total wealth is approximately $395,000 to $430,000. Hours worked are estimated at 1 out of 500 plus over 20 years. Asset concentration is 1 property, 1 neighborhood, 1 local economy. Chiggy's index fund position looks like this. Portfolio value, MSCI World, 9.2% annualized, $300 a month, is approximately $390,000 to $420,000. Total contributed is $112,000. Pure compound growth is approximately $290,000. Hours worked are approximately 40 total across 20 years. Diversification includes exposure to thousands of companies across 23 countries. They are within the same ballpark. But here's what the numbers hide. Travis' wealth is locked inside a single asset. To access it, he must sell, paying transaction costs of 3 to 8% depending on the country, plus capital gains tax. Chiggy can access any portion of his wealth on any trading day, in minutes, with near zero cost. Travis's path required consistent attention, skill, and tolerance for operational stress. Chiggy's path required exactly one skill: the discipline to not sell during crashes. Here is the framework that works regardless of which country you live in. Choose real estate. If you live in a high-growth urban market where rent covers costs, you have genuine appetite to treat it as a business rather than a passive investment. You understand the specific tax advantages in your country, depreciation in the US, negative gearing in Australia, various schemes across Europe. And you have the liquidity reserves to handle emergencies without touching your personal finances. Choose index funds if you want to participate in global economic growth without active management. You value liquidity and diversification. You have the psychological discipline to hold through crashes, which will happen. And you're willing to accept that the monthly statement won't feel as tangible as a physical property with your name on the deed. Choose both if you understand what each does well and what each does poorly. And you want to use leverage and tax advantages for wealth building on one side, while maintaining liquidity and diversification on the other. Drop your country and your path in the comments. Are you on Travis's path or Chiggy's? What market are you in? I read every single one, and your comment might become the basis of the next deep dive video. If this gave you a clearer framework for your specific situation, hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps this reach people who need to see it before they commit to a path they can't easily reverse. Subscribe to our channel and see you then.